Hello and welcome to the exciting world of Plesk Onyx. Today we are going to look at how you can manage your Docker containers with Plesk Onyx and how to run a web application in a Docker container. Ready? Let's begin. First, you need to install Plesk Docker extension. In case if you don't see this menu item on your Plesk Onyx server, go to Tools and Settings, Updates and Upgrades and select Docker Support. If you don't see Docker in the Plesk installer interface, this means that your server cannot run the Docker service. To run the Docker service, you need a 64-bit Linux system running on a physical hardware or in a virtual machine with hardware emulation. Let's start with a simple example. I'm going to install a backend service for a web application in a Docker container. For this example, let's install Mongo, a document-based database engine. On the Docker screen, I have a search field which allows me to search through all images created by the Docker community that are available on the Docker Hub. Let's search for Mongo. Here it is marked official. From this drop-down I can choose a specific version to run, but I'm going to run the latest version instead. Docker downloads the image and gives me a configuration screen for the application. Here I will adjust three settings. First, I will set the container to start automatically. I want my application working 24/7. Second, I am going to disable automatic port mapping. Since other applications will be connecting to the database server, the Mongo port should remain constant. Third, I am going to map directory /data/db inside the container to the directory /data/mongo/db on my Plesk server. This way I will have the data in a safe place and can easily backup or migrate the data. Storing the data outside of the container is one of the Docker's best practices. And now we have a Mongo database server running in a Docker container on the Plesk server, ready to be used by web applications. I can see server log if I need to troubleshoot a problem, and I can restart, stop, recreate the container as well as create a new Docker image from it. Now let's do something more advanced and run a web application in a Docker container. I can go about it in two ways. If this is an application that I developed, I should also write a Docker file, a set of instructions for Docker on how to build a container image and then build an image from it. There is a lot of information on how to do that. For example, if your application is running on Node.js, then there is a handy guide on their official website, which I will link to down below in the description. If you want to run someone else's web application, there is a good chance that the Docker image is already available on the Docker Hub. For this video, I have chosen Mongo Express application that allows me to manage Mongo databases on my server. The actions here are pretty much the same as before. I search for the image using application's name, click Run, and Docker downloads the image. On the configuration step, again, I choose to start the container automatically and set a static port mapping for it. I also need to change several of the parameters below. First is the hostname of the Mongo server. By default, it will try to connect to hostname Mongo, which won't be recognized. Instead, I am going to put an IP address of my Plesk server here. Next, I want to protect access to my Mongo database manager with a password. And finally, I would like to have this application available with a base URL /admin, not in the root of my website. To learn more about specific parameters of the Dockerized application, visit its page on Docker Hub. Let's check the application by its port 8081. Good, it's working. The final step is to make this application available on standard HTTP ports 80 and 443. This can be done with site-wide proxy rules. Let's go to my website, scroll down and click on Proxy Rules button. Then click Add New Rule. The interface is very simple. I just need to specify a path on my website where I want my application to be available, choose the Docker container I want to use for it, and select port mappings. That's it. Now let's check if I can access my application. Yes, that's how you run a web application in a Docker container. Today we learned that to run Docker you need a 64-bit Linux system on a physical hardware or in a virtual machine with hardware emulation. Plesk Onyx provides a simple interface to search Docker Hub catalog for Docker images and allows you to run new containers from these images. If you are running a web application inside a Docker container, you can set up a website's proxy rules to transparently redirect visitors to this application. I hope this video was helpful.